Everyone, welcome to the Social Club, coming from somewhere in the not too distant future, aka Ball Street South. We're here to discuss a whole host of topics this week, and we're going to start with Manchester City and have they gone backwards under Pep Guardiola? Is it as simple as a yes or no answer for this, James, or is there more to it?
Well, hopefully there's more to it. And
well, you know, for the sake of the content,
yeah,
let's
absolutely.
hope so.
Yes. End of. No, yeah, absolutely. I think it's quite an interesting one, this, because we were saying before that Guardiola is a manager who's got a pedigree like no other. Yet it's not worked out the way that he's wanted to. Certainly in the last 20 games, started really, really well, but something has gone wrong, and they haven't moved forward as much as they certainly would have hoped for at the start of the season. I think there was an understanding there would be some kind of transition there, but I think if you were asked, to be interested to know what people think, I think most Man City fans overall would be disappointed with.
Well, we've got two Man United fans in the room, so I'm sure they're going to be plenty happy to have a dig away at old Guardiola. What do you reckon, Statman Dave in the house for the very first time on Social Club?
Well, I think it's an interesting one because City looked really good after those first 10 games, top of the league, absolutely flying, playing those two false eights and Kevin De Bruyne and David Silva, and they looked really good. But it was since, Gundogan came in, Guardiola tried to play through at the back, that completely failed because obviously playing Leroy Sané as a wing-back, which was pretty suicidal. So I think it's been a mixture of playing his tactics that he played at Bayern Munich, given they were so dominant, doesn't quite work in the Premier League, but also he's got to be a little bit more adaptable. The thing that I really question is that you get to see a Barcelona Champions League, changes his style, plays on the counter-attack in that second half, City go on, dominate that game. Why is he not doing that more in the Premier League? Because he's got players that can counter-attack well, like Kevin De Bruyne, best counter-attacker in the world for me.
Is he setting himself up for this though, Sam? Because we were chatting about this in the office prior to it. It's that first run of games, and I think he almost set the bar a bit too high for himself to start with. And you could say, well, listen, look at the money they've got, look at the squad they've got, look at his pedigree. His bar should be as high set as possible. But every new team, every team with a new manager is going to take a while to adapt. They were always going to have a sticky patch. Now, if they'd had that in the first 5 games of the season, no one would have batted an eyelid because of the new guy coming in. Yeah. But because they started so well, has it heaped more pressure on them?
No, I think the opposite, actually. I think if he didn't have that 10-game burst at the start, there'd be a lot more pressure on him right now. That's given him a bit more of a grace period to say, look, we know that's what we're going to get to. But I don't really know what's going on with City because, see it with Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, Mourinho at United. You've got two managers who are very strict in their ways. They know what they're going to try and implement with their philosophy. And it's going to take a little bit of time, but it worked instantly at Man City. Straight away, their training came in, 10 wins in a row, thinking hunky-dory. Yeah. Because Man City had been preparing for Guardiola's arrival for a while. So it looked like it was going to work just perfectly, but and now it hasn't. Pep isn't showing a plan B, just like
I think it's the fullbacks is the big one for me. Like they've not signed any fullbacks for 3 seasons in a way. They've still gone with Kolarov, Clichy, Sanga, and obviously Zabaleta. Pep Guardiola over his career, think of the fullbacks he's had at Barcelona. He had Dani Alves, who's the best fullback in world football that we've seen in the last 10 seasons. Let's say Bayern Munich, Philipp Lahm, David Alaba, two of the best fullbacks again. He started playing inverted fullbacks as well, just coming into the Premier League like he did at Bayern. Those players coming inside, overloading the centre of the pitch. But he instantly realised that doesn't work in the Premier League because teams break wide. And I think it's that difference, that tactical evolution that Pep needs to go down again. Yeah. But he can do that, man. He's tried loads of different systems of formation. I feel he's going the right way.
What I would say, I think he does need to take a decent amount of the blame for the whole kind of feeling at Man City at the moment, because his body language is poor, and I know that shouldn't mean too much, but it means a lot when it means a huge amount. And then the signings that he's brought in this year, you talk about the fullbacks, we knew they had the 4th oldest squad in the Premier League last year. They've now got the joint 3rd oldest squad. So yes, he's gone and bought these young players, but he should have gone and bought decent defenders that are going to actually make an impact. Look at the signings this season. You've got John Stones, which he is being targeted by a lot of people in the rest, but he hasn't been, in terms of the money that they spent for anyone and how well they've played, he hasn't done that great.
The thing is, though,
same with Bravo. Yeah. Bravo's having a nightmare. Gundogan's got injured, so the signings haven't worked. And you talk about those 10 games, started very well, but then he's been found out a little bit, and he's not adaptable. He doesn't seem to have a plan B.
There's only so much you can do in one transfer window. I know it's 2 counting January, but you come in and people say, well, look, he had his feet under the table long before he actually got in there. And yeah, he's right. There was defo he had more of a say than most new managers do coming into a club. There will have been some prep work done there, but there's also no accounting for coming into a club and thinking, I've got a really talented group of players here. You don't know the mentality of your footballers until you get on the training ground with them, And again, and that's the thing. You could look at Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp last season, and we went with this. We talked about this high press style of football. Liverpool did that for a bit, and then didn't really do it toward the back end of the season. We found a way of working. The way that Liverpool played this season is not like how Liverpool played at the back end of last season. The way we play now, constantly putting defences on the back foot. We simply didn't have the players to play the way we wanted to play last season. And for me, I think there's a lot of, when it comes to Guardiola, I think people are like pigs in shit with him not being successful at the moment, because everyone loves it, don't they? Because as much as everyone would have loved him to come in and unveil, pull the sheet back on this phenomenal model of football for us to all go up at, it also not working is just as nice in some regards, isn't it? Because it's nice to see the guy who thought he fucking knew everything coming in, going to show us how to play our game, and look at them, they're not succeeding. And some of it's hubris on his part, but equally there is a certain degree of Pep Guardiola's a great manager. Let's see what he looks like in a year's time. If they're like this time next year, major questions. But until then,
I think it works both ways, though. I think the other side of it is you can give him too much leeway when there should be aspects of what he's done so far that hasn't worked out. I am a huge fan of his, but like the Leicester game away when they got beat there. Yesterday, 70% possession. The way that they attack sometimes, it feels a bit too slow for me. And again, I don't feel like there's that plan B.
I think if you're looking at managers who have had pressure from the media, I think Guardiola's got a pretty lightly in comparison to Mourinho. Mourinho had that shaky start, and Guardiola didn't. Maybe that's where he got a little bit more leeway with the pressure from the media. But had he had the same scrutiny and intensity, because there are pigs and shit. Everyone wanted to see Mourinho fail at United, and they've enjoyed it. Now United are playing well, it goes off a little bit, and now the eyes are going towards Guardiola at Man City, and it's only going to crank up because they didn't just get beaten by Everton. They really got humiliated.
It's the biggest defeat, isn't it? As a
I think the thing with the intensity, I think you mentioned Liverpool before, how they pressed so well at the start of Klopp's tenure, and then they set off and now they're going again. You're not seeing that from City in recent weeks, and it's too easy. You can't, if this City team doesn't defend from the front, which it's not doing with Sterling, Aguero, Silva, a lack of effort there. Yeah. Without that, you expose the likes of Otamendi, John Stones. Yeah. It's a little bit too easy. And Yaya Toure, a player that's come back into the side after being dropped and being ousted from the squad, looked a little bit off the pace, a little bit slow. I thought he was really good against West Ham. I thought he cleaned up really well. But against Everton, very, very poor. And, you saw the goal the first Lukaku goal where he's dropped into centre-back and then he completely loses his man, Otamendi. It's the same thing, and it seems like these mistakes are made time and time again. Is it something Guardiola needs to adjust in training or so forth to get it right in a way?
Yeah. Like I say, I come back to it, and I say there is just literally so much that you can do. And he probably thought there was probably a balance struck between how many changes I can make, and yet without completely throwing team harmony under the bus. Whereas I think in hindsight he probably looked back and thought, oh fuck, if I was going to get this much stress and scrutiny, I'd have just gone and bought 15 players in the summer. But again, this is the thing we've got, and look, we sit here, we do not here every week, but we sit and do social club every week, and we've got to find these things. And there's always going to be one manager down. I talk about my mother-in-law's got four kids, and she said it's horrible because there's always one of you that's not happy. And that's the thing about football. You've got so many of these top managers now in the Premier League.
Yeah, you're right.
They can't all be successful at one given moment. So it's great to talk about Guardiola because it's nice, isn't it? Have a little gossip about a manager who should be good but not doing good. And we do this every single week, and we will persist with doing it. But again, I look at it and I think, what did Man City need to buy in the summer? If we're looking at it now with hindsight, goalkeeper, 2 full-backs, at least a centre-back, probably 2 centre-halves. They went and bought the defensive midfielder who was already injured and has now been subsequently injured again. They needed more youth up front. They probably needed a better cover for Sergio Aguero. Again, we're getting into like 10, 12 players, and not just like most clubs can do it, where you go out and get some good players and blah, blah, blah. It's Man City, and the expectation is to go out and buy superstars in every single one of these positions. So, I mean, cry me a fucking river for Man City, but this
Bravo
is the
one
nature of
is
it.
fascinating. You know, a player that was so good at Barcelona, so confident, but it just feels like the English press they're in his head. You know,
he's got a terrible goal.
He's got the worst save percentage in the Premier League. He's conceded something like 11 goals in his last 19 shots on target. He's not having a good time. But you watch the keeper that played for Barca, and then you see this guy. It's like a different player.
He was known for his consistency, wasn't he?
He was known for his consistency. He's got that record clean sheets numbers in La Liga history.
Shame.
Yet he's in the Premier League now, and he's not with the
greatest of respects to Ball Street FC, I'd have some decent clean sheet
There we
records
go.
if I played
Yeah,
for Barcelona.
that's
Like, you know what I mean? Modicum, slightly improved. If nothing
How are you
else,
off your left foot then? Long balls off your left foot,
Not so
perfect,
much,
right?
Not so much. Definitely not from the goalkeeper. But yeah, this is the thing, is that Cardio Bravo looks terrible, but you're right. Again, these are all these things that he's got to contend with, because Joe Hart, weirdly beloved, turns out, everyone loved to lambast Joe Hart when he made a mistake. It's you can't win sometimes.
And you're right as well. They've got more points at this stage of the season than they did last year. So you're right. It's minute things, but I do think he needs to take a little bit of blame.
It's
for,
the overall
for
quality of the Premier League, though. So I mean, we on any other normal season, Liverpool probably would have spent more time on top of the league than they would have in the past. Man United would comfortably be in top four. Man City would comfortably, but all of these teams are all playing at such a high level that the whole bar's been raised, and there will be an added pressure on Man City again, just because of the money and because of the Guardiola factor. And again, I don't care. Let it be. Far as I'm concerned, but at the same token, there is a temptation for knee-jerk reaction to these things, and if Guardiola's they're not Man City. So they are Man City. That's exactly who they are. They're not Chelsea. They're not just going to boot him after the season if it's not quite right. He's there. They've built this infrastructure with with the youth and all that kind of system, where he's going to be there for a few years. So
that's why I don't think Guardiola's too worried about it, or anybody at Man City, because it's the same as Klopp at Liverpool. No matter how bad that first season went, you knew he was going to be the next year. This is exactly what Guardiola's doing now. So if they can progress, if they finish inside the top four, it wouldn't be what was written down on his requirements at the start of the season. You know, like a bit Football Manager, you know. But they'll be happy enough with that to say, right, we can build on that. We're in the Champions League next year. We'll go for the summer. We'll have a massive clear out again with Mourinho at United. There are players at the start of the season with what Guardiola's doing. Maybe he thought he was going to get more out of some of his players. We got more out of Rojo and Jones than we ever thought we would this season. And maybe some players are letting him down. Yaya Touré's forced his way back into the team. Is that because other players have let him down? Gundogan, injury is unlucky, but injuries happen in football, and it's definitely a case that his signings haven't worked out. But surely you're saying that at the start of the season you need a new goalkeeper, new fullbacks. He's got enough scouting system to actually realise that, to have completely and utterly ignored it. And so we've gone.
This is not Blackpool we're talking about, is it?
No. But I think what I'm saying, my point wasn't that he wasn't aware of certain things. I think maybe to a certain extent, maybe the mentality of certain players will have become aware to him, having worked them. But I say you can't go out and buy.
The margins are so fine at the top.
Well, exactly, 12. You know, and financial fair play, as much as we scoff at it, still exists. You know what I mean? To buy players at that level, it's not a job. It's not a rebuild job that can be done in one go anymore. It needs to be done over a number of years. So again,
before we're seeing that with the academy, though, the academy they've spent so much money in, that's winning at youth level. Where the players coming out there? And I think that's a big thing that Guardiola hasn't done. He did well at Bayern Munich. The players he brought through there, the players he brought through at Barcelona. He's not done that at Manchester City, and that is a big problem. Again, we go back to the aging squad. That's an instant solution. Yeah. Bring someone like Garcia into midfield, who I was very impressed when they played Man United in the League Cup. Yeah, very good on the ball, very composed. You need someone in there right now. You know, they look so rushed at the moment.
You look at Everton with what Tom Davies has done and rejuvenated a midfield, which was looking pretty lackadaisical. Yeah. Maybe Garcia could.
Well, that's it. I think there's definitely things to be proven. I guess the judgment on Guardiola is going to come. I think how he adapts this period. You know, it's only been a week or so since he said, maybe I have to learn from English football more than English football has to learn from me, which shows an understanding of his situation. Yeah. He's not blithely going into these things, but you know, again, if we go a few more weeks and we don't start to see a couple of kids trying out in these positions and whatever, then you know maybe there are more questions to be asked. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on the whole Guardiola thing. Have Man City gone backwards under Guardiola? Let us know in the comments below. If you haven't done so already, of course, click on the Ball Street emblem on the screen, and as well, because why not, go and subscribe to Statman Dave's channel as well for more stats and Dave. To the title. Thanks for watching. Ta-ra.